Hi, Johannes. And first of all, I wanted to say that I'm really happy that the German government is getting interested in sustainability. I'm really happy that we have a public body. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done in the field, a lot of data that needs to be collected, which is going to be very expensive, and it needs to be totally transparent and peer-reviewed. So I really welcome, the fact that the German government is getting into this and that Green Button has been created. I think it certainly could be a nucleus, going forward.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for that. I'm looking forward to our talk here, and honestly, I must admit that I didn't really read your articles or get the opportunity before we had the chance to chat here. So I did in the last week, but before that, that was not the case, and it has really been for me inspiring to read your work and what you are looking at exactly, because. I've been working for the Green Button for more than 2 years, and I've been looking into standard systems way before that already. And the points that you're making, I did see my own doubts and thoughts from the past couple of years really consolidated in what you're writing. So I think I'm looking forward to that. And I think we have encountered lots of the problems that you are addressing while designing the Green Button standard system. And so for the most part, I agree with lots of your points. But at the same time, I think as a Green Button, we also have a different angle to look at it, because we have set out to give orientation to consumers about more sustainable textile choices. So we are more looking at the Green Button from the perspective of consumers, and a bit less from the perspective of the smallholder farmers and the production side, but still need to try to bring that together. And especially for the fibers and materials part, where I'm responsible for at the Green Button, I think that is what you are writing about is one of the major aspects that we need to talk and discuss even more in the next couple of years.
Okay, well, I'm going to jump in there and kind of actually, what I've been writing about so far, I mean, I have mentioned it, you were talking about the smallholders, the socioeconomic impact, but there is a fundamental flaw in the system at the present time. That is that we all subscribe to the Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 SDGs, whatever it is. Everyone says that they support these, but there is a definition of sustainability that underlies those goals. It was a definition that was developed by the Brundtland Commission, the World Commission on Environmental Development, and it is very clear what sustainability means. And it states that sustainable, is in the sense we all know, sustainable is what the present generation can consume without preventing future generations from consuming. Likewise, it has two caveats, and these two caveats have fallen out of the debate. And I would submit that nobody, absolutely nobody, can advise any consumer or anybody else to purchase something without considering these caveats. And the first caveat is that within the concept of needs, the essential needs of the world's poor have to be given overriding priority. So when you're considering whether something is sustainable or not, when you're going to advise a consumer whether something is sustainable or not, you unequivocally have to have included in that assessment, that measure, whatever number you're giving them, whether it did or did not meet the needs of the world's poor. And there is absolutely no index that I know of, I mean, maybe you know, maybe no database that does that. As far as I know, nobody has any data on the role that these fibers, and particularly, obviously, we're talking, Bill Gates pointed out in 2013, we're talking primarily about farmers. Farmers are the largest quotient of the world's poor, and farmed fibers are a cash crop. And, it's all very, if you're a subsistence farmer, yes, you're a subsistence farmer, you still need cash. You still need money to buy your medicine, your shoes, your children's school books, bicycle if you're lucky. And so to me, there's a huge problem here in the sense that people are saying, oh, we support the Sustainable Development Goals, and then they're completely throwing the definition that underpins the Sustainable Development Goals out of the window.
Yeah, I think you're right about that one, but I'm confident that we at the Green Button, or BMZ as a ministry who is behind the Green Button, that we have a very strong look at exactly what you just said, at the socio-economic situation of poor farmers. There's a strong focus of the work of BMZ all over the world, and we at GIZ are implementing this. And also specifically in the cotton sector, we have a very strong focus as a whole organization to improve value added for farmers in the supply chain, so to improve that situation. But you are absolutely right that if you are not looking at BMZ and GIZ, what we do as a whole, but the textile industry and where sustainability is going for fibers, almost all of the time people are talking about the environmental factors and the impact that this has. And I think this is at the core of the debate, or it's one of the cores of the debate here, to see that we have cotton standards, for example, that are presumably performing very poorly in terms of environmental impact, but can provide... Yeah, I would... I mean, there are... organic cotton, where most people say that the environmental impact is high, but I think that's something that we can talk about if that is really the case.
The fundamental problem with organic cotton is there's no evidence that it benefits the farmers.
Yeah.
I have a white paper coming out on the 20th, which covers, I mean, it's supposed to be the first of a series, jointly with Doro Baumann-Poli of Geneva University. And we start with the definition, and we start with looking at the cotton programs. And you will not find a single cotton program that can demonstrate that it benefited the farmers. There is one social and economic impact assessment of organic, BCI, and conventional, which was 2018. Air USA produced it, 1,200 farmers of each category. So quite a robust study, data independently collected, lots of standard deviations and so on, so you can have some idea of the reliability of the study. And that found that conventional farmers had a higher net income, and that organic farmers actually had 1.6 times the debt of conventional farmers. Now, we all know what the problem is. Nobody's paying a premium for organic cotton. If you go, there was a very interesting article by Elizabeth Klein, who went down to Texas and spoke to the Texas Organic Marketing Cooperative and to Carl Pepper. And he was saying that the only fair price for organic cotton is double the conventional price. Now, you look at what they're getting. They're not getting that. And I mean, if you look at this report, which is coming out on the 20th, you'll see I found a couple of studies, and not a single one shows that organic cotton benefits the farmers. Now, you're saying that it's debated whether it does or does not environmentally. I agree it is debated. Personally, I prefer organic, but my preferences have nothing to do with this. This is, what does the data show? The data does not show that it benefits the farmer. Therefore, you cannot tell consumers that they should buy organic cotton, because this is a violation of the SDGs. You must show that it benefits the farmers. You must show that it benefits the poor. And as long as you haven't done that, you can't tell consumers. That's my position. You can disagree.
But I don't necessarily disagree. But I think I was leading to the point that we try to be agnostic towards which standard system we are providing. I mean, there's one maybe basic thing is to be better than conventional. Although you could look at some of the preferred as more supposedly sustainable fibers, are they really better than conventional when they are in fact conventional in certain parts of the world? But that looking at value added for smallholder farmers, you need to be at this point, or we try to be agnostic towards, and we are working together with BCI and other standard organizations, CottonMed in Africa, not looking really at their environmental impact. That is a part, of course, but to really look at how can we improve the situation for farmers, which is why in the end at the Green Button we decided not to require organic cotton, which some stakeholders do demand from us to do, but we decided to broaden the scope of cotton standard systems in play to not disadvantage those that are not doing organic cotton. But
my point is nobody has any evidence that any of them are better than conventional for the farmers. Until you have that evidence, you cannot recommend that somebody purchase one kind of cotton rather than another. Have you read the BCI randomized control trial? It shows that after 3 years, it had no impact whatsoever. Now, I was leaked, it's in the report, a copy of a FlowCert audit of a Cotton Connect project, which they implemented, and it's calamitous. And My feeling very strongly is that if we want to advise people on sustainability, and we do want to advise them on sustainability, if we want brands to choose more sustainable fibers, we need to know what is the impact on the farmers. And we simply don't know that. We don't have any study. I mean, there's no study of BCI. Don't have any no robust independent studies, because obviously always is somebody produces what do they call them, snake oil salesman studies, where they show the data collected themselves, etc. There is no independent study that shows that BCI is better. None. I mean, 30% of BCI cotton comes from Brazil, which is grown by huge soy farms. It's grown, it's the secondary crop in rotation. So it's it's not always a secondary, but it's a minor crop in rotation. So it, because the cotton pierces the kind of ground soil, it's good for growing soy. But they use, I think it was 25% of global pesticides on cottons, on 11% of the volume. No water. It's all rain-fed, so that's good if you don't want to. But in terms of pesticide, Brazilian cotton is really bad news in terms of they're farming it in the Amazon and in the Cerrado. Now, if you're concerned about deforestation, Brazilian cotton is hardly going to be your preferred choice. And yet, the biggest supplier of BCI cotton is Brazil. Now, I think we seriously have to sit back and look carefully at what we're claiming here, what our data shows, whether it's substantive or whether it is really quite simply a marketing exercise. And at the moment, we have absolutely nothing that tells us that any cotton scheme does anything for the farmers. And then obviously we tack on the environmental after that.
Yeah, I mean, I am not in strong disagreement here. So for us as the Green Button, I must admit, for Green Button, we cannot make data-based claims that one system is more sustainable than the other one. And I would absolutely prefer to be able to make that claim, to be able to use robust data to make those claims. But I think I'm in agreement here that the situation currently is the status quo. We don't have data to substantiate those claims, but we need to go by proxies or estimations or by what we intend to achieve, also as GRZ cooperating with those projects in the field. But I mean, it still is it's a major problem for development cooperation overall to see if we are really having positive impact. But that is at least what we are trying to achieve and design our projects.
Let me just jump in one small piece of data here. So let's look at Benin. You know, you're saying we don't have data. Let's just look at Benin. Benin is one of the poorest countries in the world. Its primary export is cotton. It's 50% of Benin's export revenue. 70 to 80% of Benin's population is working in agriculture. For cash, they grow cotton. What do they do with those 50% of their revenues that cotton generates? Their main import by value, if you add together broken and whole, is rice. So what you're saying when Green Button goes out and says, don't buy conventional cotton, you are saying, do not buy cotton from Benin. You are effectively saying, take rice out of the mouths of poor Benin children. I mean, this is not acceptable. Comparative fiber assertions have impact. They have very serious impact on people's markets. First of all, they have an impact on the price. One of the caps on cotton prices, why they haven't increased in real terms for so many years, is precisely because cotton is viewed as being unsustainable. And obviously it's competing with polyester, which is half the price per pound. And so you have to be very careful when you go out into the world and you say, oh, don't buy something, because you are potentially destroying the livelihood of one of the poorest people on the planet. And I find it simply unacceptable that we are willing to take, we have to make a statement. We have to tell people, no, we don't. If we don't have the data, we must go and get it. And that is precisely why I'm very happy to see the German government here. You have budget, you have intent, you have, you're impartial. And my personal feeling is you need to go and get the data. I mean, I don't think it's a personal feeling. I think you're going to find that if you go ahead with this sort of thing, you're going to get backlash from the global south who are going to say, why are you destroying our livelihoods? And on such flimsy pretexts. I mean, we talk about organic cotton. As I say, I like organic. But organic cotton, there is no certification for organic cotton that goes back to the field, the whole way back to the field. And that is whether cotton is organic or not is determined. It's in the field where it's grown. All of them start from the gin gate. both GOTS and what's the other one? The textile organic content certified.
Yeah, organic content standard.
Organic content standard. OCS. That's right. Exactly. Both of them are from the gin gate onwards. Now, if you look at, and this is also in this white paper, which is coming out on the 20th, when you look at some of the studies and the reports, they are saying that the gins are not reporting correctly. They are saying that when, like the social environmental impact assessment that CNA did in Madhya Pradesh, the farmers themselves were saying, no, they don't care whether it's organic or not. They only care about the quality. So you're here telling consumers, you know that this garment is organic, when actually you don't know that. You don't have the certification that goes the whole way back to the field. So I feel very strongly if you're going to tell people that something is organic, you need to know whether that's it. Now, there are ways to find out. There are ways to track. You know, we have things like fiber trace. We have blockchain. I think it's, what's its name? Artistic milliners, that's right. In Pakistan, are introducing a blockchain system to try and track. So you can track it. Now, when you can track it, you can tell people that it's organic. But until you can, you cannot. I mean, you know, I just feel that there's a huge data failing, a huge data absence in this sector, and people are trying to give information that is inadequate, incorrect, imprecise, and that potentially has calamitous impacts. I'm just going to give you 2 quick figures. I'm sorry to like burden you with this, you know, thing, but like, so according to the International Sericulture Commission, in global silk production was 202,000 tons in 2015. In 2020, it was 91,800. Now, that is a huge drop, okay? Now, Peruvian alpaca exports totaled a 10-year high of $219 million in 2018. It was only $120 million in 2020. Now, you know that the alpaca farmers of Peru, they're the Quechua, they're indigenous peoples, they are already very poor. Their market just went. And silk's market just went, and it went because of the claims that people are making about the sustainability of silk and about the sustainability of alpaca, which are apparently the 2 least sustainable fibers in the world. On the most spurious and, well, we won't go into the detail of what's wrong with those claims. But the point I'm making is that you have a huge responsibility. And you cannot go around telling people to buy one thing or another unless you're certain. Okay, so
thanks, Veronica, for bearing with me on this. Because I think one issue we need to talk about as well, or that needs to be raised, is, apart from the production of fibers, is to look at how are those materials performing after the factory gate. I think that's one of the major aspects that has been looked at too little in the past years or decades even, and is still looked too little at right now. So we at Green Button, we were happy to see that there are initiatives at EU level and also UN level to look at how those materials performing in their use phase and towards end of life, towards circularity, because it's obvious the more you can wear clothing, the less the environmental impact gets, and the better it is suited for a circular economy, the more efficient the material use becomes as well. So we have that EU strategy for a circular economy, and we at Green Button, we tried at least to look at how we can align our criteria with the sentiments or the elements that are in that strategy. And we are seeing that there are possibilities to integrate that, but it's very, very complicated to do as a product certification, and it might even in parts be impossible. But obviously we have a huge problem with those fibers that are not degradable, which would be chemical fibers. So we try for the most part to remove them from the material stream for Green Button products. At the same time, we're facing the issue that the infrastructure, even in the European Union or even in Germany, for textile recycling, to even put it into circular material flows, is not there, and that business models in the textile industry, even in the more sustainable ones, are very small scale as of right now. So we want to go into the future to be as much aligned as possible with this, and in seeing huge problems, not only in designing those criteria, but then again, going back to the previous point, how can we measure fitness for circularity for certain products, because we never know how much a product is really used by a consumer or by institutional procurement or companies or workwear. You can make assumptions that a workwear item will be used more than a consumer fashion item, but you just never know. And I think there's a very, very large white space on the landscape of data to look at, can we make valid assumptions on the use phase and fitness for circularity of products just based on the product design and materials that are flown into this. So this is one major aspect that we want to tackle at Green Button. We've tried to tackle it right now, but to be honest, not really 100% satisfied with it. But I think we need debate and research in the next couple of years and decades to make better statements on this and advise consumers on how to make the right choices.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I suggested actually last time was that the most important determinant of how sustainable a garment is how many times it's worn. You know, if it had an impact of 12 and you wore it once, it had an impact of 12 per wear. It had an impact of 1,200, you wore it 100 times, impact of 12 per wear. But at the end of that, you have like 100 of the 12-pound dress to throw away, or 12 impact dress, because value or impact, same thing, and only one of the 1,200 one. So I thought that perhaps the simplest thing to do is quite simply put like a smoker's warning label on garments saying, warning, you know, if you use this or wear this less than X times, whatever that number might be, would have to be determined by some kind of research or study, then this is an unsustainable purchase. Because what we know is the real issue is with apparel, it's volume, it's huge volumes. And so if you just put it out there, I would submit, if you put it out there to the consumer right up front, so that when considering purchasing it, they think to themselves, hang on a second, how many times am I going to use this? And of course, one of the other problems you're talking about circularity is that the main fiber is polyester, and polyester cannot be recycled fiber to fiber economically. And this is where you have a real problem. It's like circularity is great, but what are the economics? Like everyone talks about renting, everyone talks about resale, repair, etc., etc. A 12-pound dress, you're not going to rent out a 12-pound dress. You're not going to resell a 12-pound dress. You're not even going to repair a 12-pound dress. So we have to look, when we want to talk about circularity, we want to talk about building, a more circular, we have to look at the economics. What does it make economic sense for brands to do? Now, potentially then, governments need to step in. They need to alter the incentives. There needs to be subsidies. There needs to be taxes, something like this. But at the moment, I think it's virtually impossible to make fashion as it stands with this huge amount of Shein and Boohoo and so on made out of polyester. I think it's virtually impossible to make that circular with the current incentive system. So, because it's just, it costs so much to collect it all together, to sort it, and apparently to make really sustainable polyester fiber, sustainable, long-lasting, you need to bring it back to the molecular level, very expensive, also a high impact. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think what we are seeing here is that it is very difficult to find solutions that would not involve an almost overhaul of the textile industry system and how textiles are sold and produced. Because even I would assume cotton shirts that might be GOTS certified, organic cotton, supposedly social production, they are still selling for, I'm talking euros here, 20 euros, and that is not a lot of money. So when you're done wearing that cotton T-shirt, and it is GOTS certified and 100% organic cotton, in principle, fit for circularity, the consumer right now, a user of that product, shouldn't consume it ultimately here. It's too cheap for him to have an incentive to put it into a circular loop. So I think that is very difficult, and we need to look at not only circularity, but I mean, how can we foster high usage rates of T-shirts and other products to see, realizing that at least now they are not put in a circular loop, that they are at least used as much as possible. And of course, I mean, I think you have written or talked about wool or cashmere sweaters. They are usually worn for years or even decades, and there are opportunities for repairing cashmere sweaters, if you're looking at the elbows and then you have some issues, you can put it to repair, and you have an incentive because you don't want to pay 150 euros again for a cashmere sweater. You're going to repair it. But it's very difficult to really measure and make statements. I mean, that I think we are in the dimension of making assumptions of cashmere sweaters. It's a very plausible one, but it's very hard,
it's still an assumption. Yes,
to really have data.
Yep. Yes, I think it's going to be virtually impossible to have data. So I'm not quite sure what one does there. But yeah, I think that the message should be to consumers in general to wear it more, to use it more. And I personally think that something Green Button should have at the top, use it more.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that we can get out our communications with, because we are doing lots of engagement with consumers, and that needs to be one of the main messages in any case, regardless of what fibers or materials are used, that clothing should be used as much as possible if you have already bought it.
It also saves you money. The more, like, endlessly buying new clothes actually ends up costing quite a lot very quickly. When you look at these huge hauls, many people do, and you think it's cheap because it was only 12, but you bought 10 of them. So
yeah. I guess that's also for the other people on the panel and on the fair here in the event, to have good design for sustainable clothing, so that the sustainable clothes are really used as much as possible. So, but that would be for other experts to discuss, I guess.
Sustainability is science and economics. Where are the scientists? Where are the economics? You guys can bring them in. And Germany's, you're nice living Germany. You're renowned for your science and I really think it's great that you're here. I'm really happy. I'm not, attacking you in any way, shape or form or Green Button personally. Yeah. There is a gap in the sector, in the industry, and we have to fill it. And I'm hoping that you will go back to Green Button and say, guys, we need lots of money and we've got a lot of work ahead of us, and let's see what we can do.
Yeah, thanks.